A mother and daughter move into a quiet town. In the eyes of the people, this mother and daughter are unfortunate. Gypsy was born with a disability, paralyzed in the lower half of her body and unable to walk, and has a series of illnesses in addition to her paralysis. She is wheelchair-bound, unable to care for herself, relies on a food tube for meals, and must take oxygen before going to sleep. Gypsy is accompanied by her mother, Dee, who is old and exhausted from caring for Gypsy, who is so sick. Gypsy has been disabled and mentally retarded since childhood, and at the age of 14, her intelligence is equivalent to that of a 7-year-old child. But Dee still works hard to care for her and provide her with the best life possible. She bought Gypsy princess dresses, dolls, and even painted her house pink. Under Dee's care, Gypsy is optimistic and cheerful. Like many children who struggle with illness, everything in the world is beautiful to her. The neighbors also love this girl who smiles like the sun. Gypsy has reached puberty, but being paralyzed in a wheelchair, she can't enjoy the life of a teenager like a normal girl. Other people can wear makeup as much as they want, but she doesn't even have hair. Only after a neighbor tries to put on her own makeup does she feel a little more beautiful. Gypsy shows off her makeup to Dee, but Dee is furious when she sees it. In Dee's anger, she has to wipe off her makeup and go back to being a simple disabled girl. Mother and daughter have some other little tricks up their sleeves that people don't know about. Gypsy has her eye on a necklace at the mall, but without a job and living on welfare, mother and daughter obviously can't spend a lot of money. This is when they resort to the old trick of stealing. Gypsy looked around, and when no one was around, Dee took the necklace. But the theft was watched by a neighbor who happened to be on the second floor of the mall. Dee and the neighbor looked at each other. The scene was very awkward. The two mothers and daughters cooperated in the theft, which obviously discredited the neighbor's impression of the two. The neighbor said that this would definitely teach Gypsy a bad lesson. In the face of the neighbor's condemnation, Dee began to sell her misery, talking about how difficult it was for her to live as a single mother with a paraplegic Gypsy. The neighbors were touched by the story and stopped pursuing it. At a party, Dee was chatting with the neighbors when Gypsy, who was in a wheelchair, saw the buttercream on the table and couldn't resist taking a bite. Dee saw the scene and almost screamed as she rushed over. Gypsy was born allergic to sugar, and just a small bite of the cream could have killed her. Dee was trembling and rushed to take Gypsy to the hospital in her wheelchair. The neighbors were shocked to see this scene. To take care of such a sick daughter, Dee must be very strong. Fortunately, Gypsy was able to save herself with the little cream she ate, but Dee was still in shock. She warned Gypsy once again not to touch any dessert. That night, something unexpected happened. Gypsy woke up in the dark room and slowly walked out of the bedroom with one foot on the floor. She could walk. Paraplegia was a lie. Not only that, but she opened the refrigerator and squeezed out the cream like toothpaste and swallowed it in one gulp. Dee had said that sugar was poison to her, but after eating so much cream she was fine. Dee also said that she should not walk on the ground or her disease would be aggravated. But she really walked and her disease did not show signs of aggravation. She began to wonder if she was getting better or if Dee was lying to her. Since swallowing the cream and being safe, Gypsy went into the kitchen at night, eager to eat all the sweets in the fridge. Not satisfied with just eating, she starts to fantasize about sex in her adolescent years. Whenever Dee is not around, she turns on the computer and searches for images of passionate kisses and male nudity. And the more she sees, the more she becomes obsessed. She was still a good girl in front of Dee, but the seeds of sex and love were germinating and growing wildly in her heart. She yearns to be a woman and have a real man. Gypsy steals dessert every day and over time her teeth are broken. She was brought to the hospital and all her teeth were pulled out. Without her teeth, she looks so ugly in the mirror. She cries and tells Dee that she wants her teeth back, but in return she gets Dee's anger. Dee knew her little secret of stealing dessert every midnight and said that they could live in such a nice house because Gypsy was disabled. Disability brings a lot of benefits. Not only housing privileges but also donations from people from all walks of life. If one day people know that you are not disabled, everyone will think that mother and daughter are liars. Dee's words tell the truth about Gypsy's forced disability. Without this lie, then mother and daughter would lose their current lives. Gypsy had to continue to eat through the food pipeline, pretending to be disabled and unable to eat in front of outsiders. To make mother and daughter look more miserable and to get more funding, Dee joined every charity event. The day she received a letter, Gypsy was selected as the charity's Child of the Year. This is a great honor. To make Gypsy's illness look real, Dee force-feeds Gypsy sleeping pills in front of the welfare agency's interview. The groggy Gypsy actually looked like a retard. The welfare agency thus decided that Gypsy was really mentally challenged. In order to keep Gypsy away from the outside world, Dee taped all the windows of her house with paper. The neighbors who didn't know the truth just silently lamented the fact that 14-year-old girls were old enough to fall in love. But Gypsy, who was mentally retarded, had to stay in her pink room playing with dolls like a princess. Gypsy could not accept the fact that all her teeth had been pulled out. Dee gave her a gift of a pair of dentures before she went on stage to speak as the Charity Child of the Year. With her dentures, Gypsy's energy was restored and Dee's smile looked so loving. On stage, Dee gave a speech instead of Gypsy about how their mother-daughter bond can withstand storms. The people on stage were moved to applaud, ignoring the hypocrisy hidden behind the spotlight. On this day, Dee took Gypsy to a costume exhibition, where Gypsy wore a wig and a princess dress. The exhibition was very lively and exciting. When she entered the exhibition, Gypsy heard Dee say that her date of birth was 1995. She was puzzled. Before Dee said to herself, "Is 1993? How now become 1995?" Gypsy's question was only answered by Dee in a perfunctory manner. At the costume show, Gypsy met an old man, Jack, who posed as Wolverine. Jack was gentle and humorous, and they had a nice chat. Gypsy wanted to ride in the car at the show, and Jack picked her up with both hands and put her in the seat, which is almost like a princess treatment. Gypsy's heart is moved. The air is filled with the smell of love at this moment, until Dee appears to break the romantic atmosphere. There is no doubt that Jack's treatment of Gypsy was sinful in Dee's eyes, and Gypsy had to leave Jack in reluctance and was taken away by Dee. Back home, Dee keeps insulting Jack. She looked at Gypsy lovingly and said that mother and daughter just need each other. Dee did not know that Gypsy's heart was already occupied by Jack. Gypsy secretly registered her social account and chatted with Jack. Jack also gave Gypsy a red wig. Gypsy is immersed in the fantasy of love every day, and even Meet the Neighbors are not exempt from showing off a little. Only Dee does not know this matter. For her age, Gypsy is very confused. She secretly looked up her birth certificate and saw that it was dated 1991. In other words, she was now 19 years old and an adult. Gypsy had a bold idea in her mind that she would leave the house, leave Dee, and run away with Jack. For the first time in her life, she puts on a grown-up woman's costume and a wig from Jack, and never relies on a wheelchair again. A powerful force is slowly awakening within her. She left a letter to Dee, saying she was an adult and wanted to be with Jack. The letter also emphasized the fact that she was 19 years old, and Dee almost fainted when she read it. She immediately began to investigate Jack's address to find Gypsy. On the other hand, Gypsy is at Jack's house and the two of them are having a hot conversation. After all these years, they finally got to enjoy a real love. But just when they were about to kiss, Dee came. Dee's presence is a nightmare. Gypsy decided never to come back when she left home. But now she's like one of those rebellious teenage girls who don't know any better and is forced by Dee to come home. Dee threatened her that if people found out that she was not disabled, there would be no more charity funding and she would have to go begging on the streets. Gypsy had no choice but to get back into her wheelchair and become the good girl with a serious illness. Dee decided that she couldn't let her daughter have any more illusions about love. On the phone, Dee tells Jack that Gypsy is mentally challenged, that she is a 14-year-old girl, not an adult, and that everything is just a delusion. Jack believes it and breaks off contact with Gypsy, and life quickly falls apart. Until a few years later when a shocking event suddenly occurred. Gypsy and Dee have always shared a social account, but this day, this account sent a strange message. When the neighbors saw the message, a bad feeling came over them. Sure enough, Gypsy's house was silent. Dee was stabbed to death in bed, and Gypsy was nowhere to be found. Where did she go? Who is the person who sent this message? What has happened to Gypsy after she broke off contact with Jack?